Hi, Gabby, back again. This time I wanted to talk to you about this reel here and why, if you are a BCBA who is implementing some sleep strategies or protocols and they're not going very well, it's probably not your fault. And so we're gonna go over that today. Here's why. So some of the things that we think about when we're doing sleep protocols is how do we remediate the behavior that's in front of us, correct? When we're looking at why our protocols are not working, it could have something to do with readiness. So here are my notes. So what are some signs of readiness? Does bedtime take forever for the caregiver or the parent? That's a huge sign that they may not be ready. There's something in that bedtime routine, in the equation of bedtime that we need to look at. We're gonna go over that in a few seconds. Do they take forever to fall asleep? And do they not fall asleep independently at all is a bigger question. So if they're not even falling asleep on their own, that's also something that we need to look at and we need to address before we can actually go through with sleep protocol and sleep training. And then also, if the caregiver or the parent leaves the room once they're in bed, does that result in some form of a meltdown or some form of problem behavior? That's another big one. So what does the child's response to them leaving the room look like? And is that something that is difficult for the caregiver or the parents to address? So now that we have an idea of what are the signs of readiness for a protocol, I wanted to share with you a checklist that I've created. It's free. You can check in the description. I'll leave a link for it. And you can use this to help support any of the families that you're working with. So one of the first things that we're gonna go over is, what does the bedtime routine look like and is it consistent? So some of the things that you would like to have a conversation with your families about is, have they established their ideal bedtime? Is the wake time consistent? And is it consistent even over the weekends? That would be an ideal situation. Does the routine for bedtime start roughly 60 minutes before bed is expected? Do we use any type of visuals to support our transition so the child understands the expectation of what's coming and that it's consistently occurring in the same order every night? So the order of events, their scheduled events, is important. It helps to predict, right, for the student what is coming. And then, does the routine end in a consistent sleep space, or does it end willy-nilly on the floor, on the couch, in another bed, like a sibling's bed, and then they have to be transferred out? We don't want to have to be doing that. Another thing that you would be looking at prior to addressing protocols would be sleep pressure. So are we avoiding vigorous activities that are alerting or overstimulating in the hour before bedtime? Has the family been able to rule those types of things out? Have they minimized them to the best of their ability or eliminated them altogether? For some students, it will be very difficult because they may be very active. So have we minimized that, or have we been able to transfer that to earlier in the day? And then we have other type of activities. So do they have calming activities in the time before bed? This will look different from child to child and to family. They may need some help thinking outside the box for this. And I also have some free calming activities, a huge list on what you can help or propose to the family to do. So things like task boxes to chores, there's just a truckload of things there, practicing their regulating breathing and so forth. So check out that list as well and use that as a resource for the families that you're working with. And a big one is, have they been able to, or are they aware that they need to eliminate screens up until bedtime? Is the child falling asleep with a TV? Do they have an iPad or an iPhone in the hour before bedtime? Because some parents may not be aware that that blue light is going to be very alerting to their child and will suppress melatonin production, which will then make sleep pressure more difficult to generate. So something else to consider. This phone keeps slipping, so I'm gonna have to hold it. That's what's gonna happen. The other thing to consider would be the sleep environment. This is going to be, of course, very specific child to child, but things like help the parent to consider the temperature of the room. Is the child demonstrating that they're hot? They're kicking off their covers? What is the lighting? Is there lighting pouring in from an outside lamppost? Is there light streaming in from the hallway? Is it too dark and that's the problem? Do they need a little night light, a little ambient light in the room? Things that you have to consider is how to make that space personalized for the learner so that they stand the best chance of being comfortable in the space to fall asleep. the noise in the house. Is there room near a high traffic area? Is it near a sibling's room where they are up during the night and they're gaming and they can hear that? Are they closer to the living room or the kitchen where there's a lot of activity after they've gone to bed? And that might be a component to it. Some parents have to consider the bedding. So is the bedding something that is a hindrance to being able to fall asleep if they're very sensory driven or sensory sensitive? And the bedding might be something to look at. And the other thing that you want to consider is, does the sleep environment remain stable throughout the night? And that's a huge one because that leads into sleep dependencies. So the final thing that you want to chat with the parents about, and we'll show this, I don't know if you can see it, it's not like, I don't know if you can see it, it's kind of backwards, but what you're looking for is what are the areas of success, helping the parents to identify what goes well currently, what are the areas of difficulty, and what is some follow-up that needs to be done. So the final area is the liquid and food intake. And this is something that parents need to consider. What are they eating also? So are they eating foods that are satiating? Are they just too carb dependent? Are they sugar dependent? Where that's going to help activate them and not really satiate them. So they're hungry through the night. So they might be getting up or they might need more drinks, things like that. Have the parents eliminated caffeine from their diet in the hour before bedtime and earlier? So chocolate would be a big one. If the child is intaking chocolate or sugary type of drinks like soda or something of that nature where they're ingesting something that's going to activate them. So you really want to look at that. Make sure parents understand that they should give them a protein dense snack. If they are hungry after dinner but before bed, pick and choose what type of foods they're going to eat. A lot of our learners are picky eaters, and of course that's something to take into consideration. But if we can tackle this piece, it would be a huge help to the parents. So if you found this helpful, please go check out my Thinkific platform. There is where you're going to find the free resources that I was talking about, the activity list and the sleep hygiene checklist that you can use with families. You'll also find my webinar there, and my webinar is geared towards BCBAs. I do have one for parents as well. And so that webinar there is chock full of information related to how to improve sleep, the variables that you should be looking at, and strategies for common sleep challenges. Also follow me on Instagram at sleeptype_Gabby. And that's where this reel that we were talking about, as well as some of my other reels, are living. Lots of information there as takeaways. And of course, subscribe to my channel and look through all my long form content here, because that's really where you can get a lot more information. So till next time. Oops.